Hello, everybody. My name is Graham Elwood, and you are watching the Political Vigilante, bringing you truth from underneath Wayne Manor, somewhere in the outskirts of Gotham City. We talk a lot about on this show why, we need to have Medicare for all, right? And I've shown you that speech of JFK gave in 1962 saying we were decades behind Europe in 1962. So Europe has had free healthcare for 70 years. We can't even get it in the middle of a once in 100-year pandemic. But there's one city in America that has it. This is put out there by More Perfect Union, which is basically a pro-labor website. This is from their Twitter handle. One town in America has Medicare for all. The story of how they got it is even more surprising. For the classroom, we went to Libby, Montana to investigate how every resident became eligible for Medicare. The rest of America has much to learn from their experience. And here is that video.
This is Libby, Montana, the city of eagles, famous for, well, not much according to former Montana Senator Max Baucus.
Most Montanans don't know much about Libby. Most Montanans never been there.
But there is one distinguishing feature of Libby, Montana that you won't find on any welcome sign or brochure. It's the only town in America with Medicare for almost all. What does that even mean? Well, I went to Libby to find out how residents became eligible for Medicare regardless of their age, what impact government-provided healthcare coverage has had on the community, and what the rest of the country can learn from the town's experience with a single-payer healthcare system, or as close as anything we have to it in the US. So stick around. This is The Classroom from More Perfect Union.
What?
The single payer is not going to get even to first base.
The year is 2009. The Affordable Care Act is being crafted, and Senator Max Baucus emerges as one of the chief opponents of a single-payer Medicare for all system.
Is Senator Baucus open to your ideas? He's not.
To a single-payer idea? Not in a million years.
But behind the scenes, Senator Baucus was writing a provision into the signature healthcare law that would make one tiny town in Montana the only place in the United States where every person, regardless of age, is eligible for Medicare.
So the Medicare has been a godsend for me.
It's helped me tremendously.
It's been the best thing to happen to Libby. And none of it should have happened. I mean, this is the thing.
So we finally brought some justice to the people of Libby.
To understand why the town needed justice, I have to rewind a few more years and give you some backstory. Libby is the site of one of the worst man-made, corporate-perpetuated environmental disasters in American history.
Oh, of course. It was born out of corporate greed. But let's learn more.
This is how the story goes. Libby was the site of a vermiculite mine. The extracted ore, sold under the brand name Zonalite, was used for all sorts of things. What wasn't widely known for the decades the mine was in operation was that, though vermiculite itself is harmless, it was contaminated with tremolite asbestos. It was later revealed that W.R. Grace, which owned and operated the mine for decades, knew about the danger to workers.
It didn't happen to us, as anyone would like to say. It was done to us.
That's Gayla Benefield.
She's the Aaron Brockovich of Libby.
And that's her daughter, Julie Johnson. Gayla wasn't feeling well while I was in town, so I caught up with her by phone.
Julie called you the Aaron Brockovich of Libby, and that is the best.
Yeah, she's taller than I am. The only way to describe it is it just pissed me off.
Gayla's father, a miner, died from lung disease. Her mother also died from lung disease. And Gayla won one of the first wrongful death suits against Grace over her mother's death.
Grace had bought the company. They bought the company with people knowing they had lung problems. They gave them chest x-rays every year to watch their lung capacity go downhill to see how long they could actually work a man up there before it showed and how long before he died.
So the company knew about asbestos exposure, was monitoring the damage on workers, and instead of telling people, they just tried to figure out how much work they could take out of a man before he died.
That's capitalism. Oh, this is hurting my employees. Oh, don't tell anybody. We might lose money. But you're hurting people's lives. Well, who gives a shit? So this is what happens when you sign up for capitalism. You are giving your life, your time, and in many cases, your body to the corporation who does not give a shit about you. Because the story is, we've heard this story 1,000 times. So if you're big, I like capitalism. Okay. Robert Kiyosaki, watch this.
W.R. Grace closed the mine in 1990.
The W.R. Grace Company had a volunteer medical program, but they had a bar of getting access to care that was quite high.
That's Dr. Brad Black. He helped lead the Center for Asbestos-Related Disease Clinic in town, which screens and monitors community members for, as the name suggests, asbestos-related diseases.
And so a lot of people that were having significant health problems from their exposure weren't getting on the health plan.
And then they turned around within 2 years and went bankrupt on us, and we were left holding the bag.
I think Senator Baucus understood that before long, they're going to pull everything. There won't be anything for anybody.
And that brings us back to 2009.
Now is the time to deliver on health care.
As senator from Montana, Baucus was aware of Libby's issues, and as chair of the Senate Committee on Finance, he had the means to do something about it. And that's where Section 10323 of the Affordable Care Act was created.
It is one of those instances where you just, man, oh man, it's clear what had to be done. You just do it. You don't worry about bureaucracy. You don't worry about cost-effective analysis. You just do it because otherwise people are going to die.
Section 10323 basically gives people in Libby and the surrounding area benefits that nobody else in the country has. For one, it opens up Medicare access for those affected by the asbestos exposure, regardless of their age. And that can be a life changer for people like Julie. Julie was 46 when she was diagnosed with asbestos-related disease. She's been on Medicare through the Libby exception for about 10 years now.
I had no insurance at the time. Yeah, when I got diagnosed, the only good outcome of it was, yes, I did get on Medicare. I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia in probably 2003, 2004. So I had no insurance to pay for any medications with it. Once I was able to get on Medicare, I was able to get the treatment that I needed. I was able to go to the doctors and find out what's the best treatment to deal with the fibromyalgia. So the Medicare has been a godsend for me.
Libby has a current population of 2,775. The card clinic says that between 2011 and August 2021, they had identified 2,281 people in the area under the age of 65 who qualified for Medicare assistance. So because of these provisions, thousands of people in Libby have benefited. And reporting from the time makes it seem like a seamless process, despite what critics of Medicare for All would have you believe about inefficient government bureaucracy. An official from the Social Security Administration set up shop around the county and saw 60 people in Libby on their first day in town. A little over a year later, about 600 people had been signed up.
Yeah, it was really simple to get on Medicare. Once you go down to the card clinic, they diagnose you. I just had to fill out paperwork. I believe probably got online and was able to get right on the Medicare.
The system isn't perfect, of course, but the interesting thing was that the part people had the most trouble with was the private insurance aspect. Because for the majority of people, the benefits only pay for Medicare Part A coverage. That's usually stuff like hospital treatments or hospice care. That means other important health factors like doctor's visits or prescription drugs go uncovered unless people buy supplemental insurance, and that can add up.
Do you have supplemental insurance?
Yes. Oh, yes. I've got Medicare Advantage.
And that's private. You pay for that, right?
Oh, through the nose, yeah. That came through my husband's union insurance. It originally started out free, and it's gone up to $300 a month.
Because I have Part B that is $170 a month, and then I pay for Part G, which is $117 something a month, to pay for what A and B don't pay for.
That's Linda Rodriguez. She was diagnosed with asbestos-related disease about 2 years ago. I caught up with her at the Libby Library while she was running errands in town.
Because $300 a month out of your Social Security is a lot, especially when you have all your regular bills that you have coming in.
And you can get a Humana for $30, $40 a month, but what's it going to cover?
On top of that, coverage is only provided to those actually diagnosed with asbestos-related disease, regardless of how long they might have been exposed. A particular problem for a disease that could take decades to come to full force. But it seems like the people I did talk to like the system and are benefiting from the provisions, but maybe feel like it doesn't go far enough. There's still a costly private insurance component that many still have to deal with. Which reminded me of something Senator Baucus said in our conversation.
You don't worry about bureaucracy. You don't worry about cost-effective analysis. You just do it because otherwise people are going to die.
I mean, that makes sense to me, but I wonder why that can't apply to communities outside of Libby too. So I asked Gayla and Julie and Linda about that.
Our health care is sad compared to other countries. They should take care of more people.
I think Medicare should be for everybody, actually, not just people that are disabled or hit 65 or 62. We should have really good health care in the United States, and we don't. So.
Seriously, I believe in socialized medicine. I'm sorry.
No, you don't have to apologize. I believe it too.
Well, I really do, and I think that's what some people are trying to say.
Senator Baucus has since come around to the idea of Medicare for all.
And I do think that over time, if not Medicare for all, we will as a country move towards some kind of universal coverage. Every other developed country has it as universal coverage, but it's going to take time. It's going to take a long time. And frankly, it's taking longer than I expected.
If we could guarantee healthcare to every resident of Libby dealing with a lethal environmental disaster, why can't the richest nation in the world do the same for every single person in this country dealing with a deadly pandemic on a daily basis? Gayla kind of said it better than I could.
I mean, right now, the few that have insurance are just hanging on by a thread, and the ones that don't hope they don't get sick. Or they're lucky enough to get diagnosed with asbestos-related disease, so they're eligible for Medicare. Now, that's a bullshit deal, but that's basically the way the logic is here right now.
Thank you for joining us.
Well, pretty sobering to listen to that on a lot of levels. And I want to bring to discuss this friend of the show, also host of Get Your News On with Ron. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show, Ron Placone.
USA, baby.
It's the greatest country in the world, Ron.
It's incredible. I mean, and these stories are super common. I mean, you know, Libby, Montana, it's an entire city at this point, which, by the way, it is interesting that little clause is in the ACA, because you know who else should be viable for the same thing? Flint, Michigan. You know, all those mining towns in West Virginia. I mean, most cities in the country. Because there are environmental disasters everywhere, all around us. Any city where there's drilling.
There's 2,000 cities that have contaminated water that is similar to Flint, Michigan. They should all get that then. I mean, any contaminated, like you say, all the fracking spill off. I mean, any of these cancer clusters that are near the refineries or like, you know, you and I were on the road in Texas, and I remember down near Houston, there was like all these contaminated.
Yeah, I mean, was nuts, right around people's houses.
It's
nuts, dude. And you know, in Canada, and you know, nobody's system is 100% perfect, but they got a pretty good system up in Canada. They got universal health care, and it's a single payer system. The richest Canadians, like the top tax bracket Canadians, you know how much they pay a year? Like just out of pocket, what they pay for that system? $900. And these are they can afford it many times over. That's chump change. I mean, this is like the top tax bracket. Their personal cost in a single payer system, $900 a year. That's less than $100 a month.
Yeah.
And everyone else pays significantly less than that.
I would wager every American would say $900 a month for really good health, or year, $900 a year, a year. Yes, I would. Most Americans go, yeah. Right now, they're like, I'm paying $300 and it sucks. You know, I mean, you can get health care in this country for $100 a month, but it's going to be awful.
It's going to be awful. Yeah, it's not going to be what they have.
No.
And your deductible is going to be pretty freaking high. So if something happens, you're still, you know, you better have some savings. I mean, it is absolutely nuts. And you know what? This is a small aside, but I love how here in the United States, we're so propagandized that, I mean, you saw that video from the 90s where they were attributing the idea of single payer healthcare to Bernie, which they do all the time. And I'm not saying this as a diss on Bernie at all. It's just amazing how they're trying to like convince people that like Bernie Sanders invented these ideas. The rest of the freaking world had Bernie found out about it because his brother's a politician in the UK. Otherwise, no one would have known. Bernie invented these. It's like, no, the rest, like I wish she would have just been like, they're like, do you think they'll take to your ideas? You mean the type of system the rest of the fucking industrialized world has? Will they take to it? I hope so. They really fucking should. These aren't my ideas. These are not my ideas. These are ideas that work everywhere else in the goddamn world.
Yeah. And I mean, this is the thing. I mean, we've talked about this before in the show. How about we probably think Medicare for all is going to get past the way recreation. Excuse me, Ron.
Take it easy.
I'm allergic to capitalist bullshit, Ron.
Yeah.
We've said this before that and many other people think this, that a lot of the Medicare for all people, especially up in Washington, think that this is the way it'll go state by state, the way we've sort of decriminalized marijuana. First, it was a bunch of states with medical marijuana. Then Colorado was the first state to decriminalize it. And so I think this angle, though, is powerful. I think anyone listening to this or watching this, if you live in a city like Flint or had any sort of environmental problems due to a corporation's pollution, mining company, whatever, they wrote this provision. It's there. They're hoping you don't find it. They're hoping you don't say we get it, but you should do it. The insurance companies don't want you to do it, but that's one of the ways is to just everybody steamroll this provision that's in the Affordable Care Act. Now, if everybody starts doing it, eventually Nancy Pelosi will be like, this provision is bad for America. Americans want to pay for their health care. And then, like Congress will come up with some nonsensical thing like Putin wants you to have free health care. And if you get free health care, he'll invade the Ukraine or whatever the distraction they'll feed us that some Americans will go, oh, thank you. Thank you.
It's unbelievable, dude. It's so freaking ridiculous. I mean, how fucking gross is it? Oh, you were exploited and your health was just put on the line for corporate profits. So you might be able to get Medicare if you figure out how to navigate the red tape. I mean, this is like one of those stories where it's, oh, I was having all these chest problems and my insurance freaking sucked at work. But then lucky me, I had a goddamn heart attack and I fortunately survived it. And I went to the hospital scared what was going to happen, but I was in so much pain I couldn't take it anymore. And they said, hey, man, you had a heart attack. You're lucky to be alive. The good news, though, now you can go on disability. So if you have a heart attack in your bedroom and survive it, lucky day. That's your lucky day. You might get to go on disability. These are by the way, that's a real story. When I just said like that shit happens in the United States all the time. This is what our system is. And sometimes when you talk to people from other countries who don't know the details, like their mind's blown. They're just like, what? That's the thing. You couldn't write this.
No. This is the thing. Like, I mean, I've heard of people like they had a serious knee problem. So they're like got in their car and just like did a fender bender into a pole in an empty parking lot. And then called the police. I jacked up my knee. And it's like, cause their car insurance, they don't have health insurance, but their car insurance will cover that. So then they can go to like physical therapy because they have a car insurance. It's unbelievable. And again, crazy. Americans were one of the ways we willfully take this propaganda and just swallow it whole is because geographically we're kind of isolated. And so most Americans don't travel. I mean, that's a reality. Most Americans don't even have a passport, and the ones that do barely use it. So you're not going to countries and traveling around and telling them these stories and having them go, huh? You see how crazy America is when you talk to people in other countries. They're just like, wait, the cops can just shoot you? Like, huh? Like you had to pay how much for healthcare? They're like, we had to pay, I don't know, I think $100 last year. And I had to get this procedure, like we've met people all the time on the road. I remember when you and I performed in Houston, Texas, a couple from Canada who was working in Texas told us both of their parents had different types of cancer and didn't even have to pay for parking in Canada. It was like they were like, oh, it was like maybe 3-4 months from the moment they were diagnosed to the treatment. They went through chemo and everything else, got out, good, done, clean bill of health, not a bill, not a nothing. They paid for nothing for cancer. I don't care what kind, even even if you have really good insurance in America and you get cancer, oh boy.
Oh yeah.
Like it is brutal. Like, I mean, again, we've talked about this in other videos and stuff, but Americans are so numb to this, numb to the fact that number one cause of bankruptcy in America is healthcare bills, numb to the fact that whatever I mean, 30, 40, it's probably bigger now with COVID, but pre-COVID numbers were somewhere in the neighborhood of 30, 40,000 people a year would die because they didn't have health insurance. And to clarify this, America has great health care. We have great doctors and nurses and great facilities.
Right. Yeah,
the cost
right
is and it shouldn't be this much. And it's clearly, and I've interviewed people on my show. I know you have too. And it's the insurance companies.
Yeah.
They make a fortune.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing that I think a lot of people are still just unaware of. And it's just like there's so much propaganda to cut through. People are fed this lie that the reason we have the decent facilities we have is because of our healthcare system, which is absolute freaking bullshit. In fact, it would be even better if that didn't exist. Talk to it. They'll tell you. Doctors will tell you, where it's just like, I didn't become a doctor to do freaking paperwork and do battles with insurance companies. I mean, there was that tweet that went viral the other, I think it was like the other week. I don't know if it was like a tweet or what exactly it was, but it was that letter that this doctor wrote to the insurance companies where he's like, hey, friendly reminder that you're awful. Like, it was like a really angry letter. He was trying to get, there was a kid who I think the kid actually had cancer and was going through these treatments, and it was making the kid sick. The kid was throwing up. The kid was getting nauseous. And the insurance company was arguing that this anti-nausea medication isn't necessary. He doesn't need that. So the doctor was just being like, I'm just going to tell this kid to not feel nauseous anymore since he doesn't need this. I'm just going to say, stop being nauseous. Just friendly reminder that you are awful. Friendly reminder that you're evil and awful. Like, a doctor just wrote this letter. So yeah, no, our facilities are good because we're a wealthy nation and there's great medical schools here. That's why our facilities are good. It has nothing to do with this system of exploitation called our healthcare system. In fact, we would have even better facilities because doctors would spend less time sifting through bureaucratic bullshit if we had a universal healthcare system.
And the other thing too that the propaganda we're up against is the healthcare industry spending all this money. I mean, we saw it when we were covering the Democratic primary, and you had the two candidates that Bernie was pushing Medicare for all, and I think Tulsi had a Medicare for all, but Bernie's Medicare for all was the best one. And the questions that were asked by the journalists on the panel, because they're paid, and it was always, how are we going to pay for it? And not one person, not even Bernie, again, and one of the many disappointments of Bernie couldn't even go, we're going to pay for it the same way we pay for all these ridiculous wars. Like, you guys are just going to write me a check to pay for it. And my system is cheaper than the current system.
Yeah, that was the other thing. We're already paying more.
We're already paying more. So my system is cheaper than your system. So I'm saving you money, and we'll pay for it the same way we pay for all these ridiculous wars. And then they always, the government run healthcare. That'll be, no, it's government run billing. This is the big thing in the attacks on Medicare for all. And this is also part of the Medicare for all marketing should be told in this way. Medicare for all is billing. It is the government billing system. And I had a former martial arts instructor of mine who's retired. He's in his 70s. Explain this to me. He goes, Graham, it's billing. I go to whatever doctor I want. I get a procedure. And he told me about some procedure. I forget what it was, but he goes, it was they billed me $2,500. I submit the bill to Medicare, the government. The government comes in and goes, no, it's $700, and that's what we're paying you. That's why they're so against it. He goes, I went to whatever doctor I want to. Like they make it sound like, oh man, you're going to be in some gulag doctor. You know, they can only go to this one.
It's absolutely ridiculous.
The insurance companies do that. Insurance
that's
companies,
who makes you pick a doctor.
Yes. It's the HMOs. You can't go to this. And then you got it's such a pain in the ass. And then you got to get a referral to go to this. I mean, just to get another, like a dermatologist or something for some minor thing is just like the worst. And it's like Medicare would eliminate that, but that's just it. They can't gouge you. They can't charge you $2,500. They can't charge you $3,000 for an MRI and you know, whatever, $150 for one Tylenol or whatever the crap that they do. And that's why they're so against it, because they're just greedy assholes.
Yeah, I mean, in the insurance lobby, they're a hell of a lobby. You know, I mean, they buy off politicians. We just had it happen here in California again. We just had single payer. They got it to the point where it was going to get a vote, and they pulled it at the last second. At the 11th hour, they pulled it because one of the co-authors decided that protecting his colleagues was more important than, putting this to a vote. And for some reason, you look at the history, they've been pulling this bullshit for 13 years. Because when Arnold Schwarzenegger was governor and they knew a GOP governor would veto it, all of a sudden they had no problem getting it through to the governor's desk. When they knew it was going to get vetoed, they got it to the governor's desk real quick. Then they got a Democratic governor who doesn't really want to sign it into law, but is going to be on the hot seat to do so because it's part of the Democratic platform in California. And all of a sudden they can't get it through now. All of a sudden they just don't have the votes. All of a sudden. And they've been doing this same dirty trick for 13 years, for 13 freaking years. And you know what happens is they set someone up to do the dirty trick, and then that person doesn't face any political consequences. Anthony Rendon did it in 2017, 0 political consequences. He got reelected, and he's a darling with the establishment now. Ash Kalra did it this time. I have a feeling that guy's going to face 0 political consequences because if you go on Twitter, everybody's running defense for the guy. When people do this and they pay 0 price politically, it's just going to keep happening. So it's going to happen for another 13 years. And this is in California, the so-called progressive utopia of the United States, which is a load of shit.
It's a load of shit. And California is also littered with dipshit neoliberals who refuse to hold the Democratic Party accountable. They get more mad at people like us criticizing the Democrats. They get more mad at us than the Democratic Party. Like, they keep defending this abusive relationship over and over and over. And it's mystifying to me. So that, well, we could have had it, but Arnold blocked it. Okay, well, now.
Then why can't it get through? Well, they just didn't have to vote. It's like, yeah, but they needed to force the vote so we knew where people stood. No, that's an ally. You don't look. You have to have. I mean, it's like if your spouse was cheating on you for 13 freaking years. But each time it was a different person with a different excuse. And you just keep like, well, okay. Hey, there's a different reason this time. And there's a different person. It's like, it's the same trick. It's the same political dirty trick. You need to stop the frickin' trick. And by stopping the trick, you need to say, you pull this dirty trick, you lose your job. Pull the dirty trick, lose your job. Pull the dirty trick, lose your job. But nobody wants to do that. Nobody, I mean, that's why, like, I'm so frustrated with the whole, we're going to take over the Democratic Party. Like, one, I just don't think it's going to happen. And two, it's like, you don't even have a plan to make it happen because that involves a little more than just, hey, if you can recite the platitudes I like, I'll vote for you. And hopefully you beat the other person. That in and of itself is a huge task. But anybody can recite progressive platitudes and then get elected and do the same bullshit. We're seeing it in California. We're seeing it nationally too, quite frankly. It takes a little more than that. It takes a little more than just trying to get people who say nice things in position of power. You also have to stop the frickin' tricks. And stopping the tricks means when someone stabs you in the back, they have to lose their job. Doesn't matter what they've done in the past. Doesn't matter if you like following them on Twitter. Doesn't matter if you met them at a dinner once and they were nice to you. They have to pay a political price because if they don't, the next person will know that they won't either. And they'll keep doing the same shit. And I feel like I look around and I think the biggest problem in our politics right now is we have a lot of people who have big spines, but no fucking brains. And then we have some people who have big brains, but no freaking spine. And then we have a lot of people who have neither. And then we have a small handful of people who have a little bit of each. And I don't know which category I fall into. Maybe I'm in the category with neither. I don't fucking know. But I'm just knowing that's what I see. That's what I see.
Yeah, I didn't even follow the single payer thing in California because it was
painful. Nah. It was so painful. It was so fucking painful. I was in that Zoom meeting that they had where, I mean, that Ash Kalra guy just bullshitted everyone for 2 hours. And there were still people playing the violin for him. And it's like, and he's done some decent legislation in the past. I'm not going to say that's not the case because it is. He's been behind some good legislation, including the single payer bill. But it's like, you have to, when someone does that, There has to be a political price because Rendon didn't pay a political price. So now this Collar guy's doing it. Yeah. And if he doesn't pay a political price, someone else is going to do it. So it's not personal. It'd be like if you're playing a fucking hockey game and you don't take the puck from your opponent because you're like, well, they're a nice guy. No, you have to take the puck from your fucking opponent. That's what you have to do. So God,
I wish Americans
so gross.
Cared about politics as much as they do about sports. Like the Bears head coach, Matt Nagy, was fired. And he's been the coach for 4 years. He's had like 1 or 2 winning seasons. He's never won in the playoffs. And earlier during the season this year, he started and they were losing and they weren't playing well. At a Blackhawks game, different sport, they started chanting "Fire Matt Nagy." And no one was like, don't be mean to him or you're going to hurt his feelings. He's an ally. It was like, you were hired to win. You haven't won. Pack your fucking shit. Get out of here. And I don't understand why, especially the liberal is so protective of the Democratic Party. I don't understand it. They should be like screaming. I mean, we could go on down the list. We could do another hour just talking about all the crap. Joe Biden has signed more drilling permits in his first year in office than Trump did. There's still kids in cages. He just got $768 billion from the House and the Senate, both controlled by the Democrats. Like just on and down the line. And people just like, yeah, but Trump is mean and the Republic. You're a sucker. Malcolm X said it in 1964. You're a chump if you keep voting for the Democratic Party. You're a chump because they keep doing this. I didn't follow what happened in single parents California because I knew it was. I would have been great if I was wrong, but I was like, I'm not watching. I don't watch shitty sports teams. I'm not going to follow the Democrat. You can't change these parties. I don't know when people are going to wake up to that fact. It's never going to happen. You're never going to change these two parties from within, ever, ever, ever. But the American people willfully drink this two-party Kool-Aid. So the American people, I'll hold those in power to most of the accountability. But the American people, you can tell them this stuff. They get mad at us. They don't want to listen to the facts. And eventually, at the end of the day, you fucking deserve it. You deserve it, you dumb dipshits. If you think you're going to listen, you just keep the squad and the demo and Newsom, and you're an idiot. If you keep falling for these suckers, and they always say, oh, the Trump voters were such idiots. They voted against their own interests. Yeah, Trump was a snake oil salesman. But how are you any different? You vote for all these vote any blue will do idiots. Oh, boy, we could get so much done if it wasn't for Steve Manchin and Kristen Siena. 2 Democrats. That's what you get when you vote for just any Democrat. This is what happens. You get on the state level, you get the Anthony Rendons of the world.
Yeah.
You get this
it's like
shithead. Fuck them all.
Right. Oh, big time. And it's like, look, I'm all about like trying to get better people in office. Sure. That's fine. But like, that's like saying we have this one puzzle piece in a jigsaw and we're good now if we can just get this one puzzle piece set up, even though we're not even setting up this one puzzle piece. You still have a whole rest of the puzzle. Look, politicians, the only time they do anything good, at least in my lifetime, is when they're scared they're going to lose their fucking job.
Yes.
That's literally the only time. So you have to, I mean, if you don't have a strike, if you don't have a movement, if you don't have a protest, if you don't have a very conditional, your loyalty should be to policies, not to politicians. So it's like, okay, this is what we demand. And if you don't do it, you're out. And this is how we're going to do things now. Like we can't tolerate this anymore. And we're going to focus on direct action. We're going to focus on cause-based initiatives. We're going to focus on ballot initiatives. We're going to focus on, using the system for our gains for once. And, by all means, try to get better people elected. That's fine. And also foster third parties, foster like different ways of doing it, foster local, nonpartisan offices. Focus on your city council. Focus on your school board. You think school board's not a big deal? Go talk to people in Tennessee about that right now. Tell them school board's not a big fucking deal. So it's I mean, and these people who are just like, well, we're just going to get everyone who says nice things and then we'll take over the Democratic Party. Like, no, I mean, you're living in a fucking dream world.
I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear anyone squaw. I don't want to hear Nina Turner. I don't want to hear their names unless it's like they're defecting to the People's Party, like Paula Jean Swearengin did. That I'm down with. If you have a D next to your name or an R, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to interview anyone. I haven't interviewed a progressive Democrat. I haven't interviewed a candidate on this show. The last candidate I interviewed was a libertarian who's running against AOC. Yes. And he and I debated vaccine mandates, but I'd rather have that guy on my show who's got balls to run as a third party, even and disagree with me, than some dumb fake ass some progressive who, if they get elected, they're going to sell out.
See, I just stick to local or like quasi local, like assembly district is the highest I go basically. Yeah. And there's a green running for Senate. I'm probably going to have him on.
Yes.
But
I'll have
that's
party
pretty
people
much
on my show.
Yeah, I'll have Greens on. I'll have Peoples on. I'll have PSL on. But then outside of that, it's like local, like my city. Like there's a guy running for city council I'm excited about, and then like assembly district is like the highest up I'll go as far as like, you know, I'm interested in talking to you and I want to see you do well.
Well, yeah. Let's hope eventually this gets passed. But Ron Placone, tell everybody where they can see you perform and get tickets.
You can see me perform at Flappers on Thursday. Graham's going to be there. That's in Los Angeles. You can get tickets at ronplacone.com. February 10th, baby. And then in April, I'm going out to the Northeast and Canada, Pittsburgh, Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal, Burlington, Vermont, Portland, Maine, Boston, and New York City. You can get tickets at ronplacone.com. See you in the spring.
Sweet. Boom. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching. We are still in our 9th month of demonetization from YouTube. So support what we're doing at patreon.com/Graham Elwood or rockfin.com/Graham Elwood, which is a blockchain cryptocurrency platform. It's free to sign up, and there's a premium level at $10 a month. And for that, you get everybody on the platform's premium content. Myself, Lee Camp, Ron Placone, Jimmy Dore, Whitney Webb, Kim Iverson, Abby Martin, and many, many others. You can also support what we're doing at Venmo at Graham-Elwood and go to GrahamElwood.com. We have a PayPal button and a P.O. box. I also have crypto wallets, which are all in the show notes. Thanks for supporting what we do.